Remember when back in the 90s, you couldn't escape Third Eye Blind, right? Every time you turned on the radio, there they were, blasting Semi-Charmed Life, Jumper, and How's It Gonna Be? Straight up anthems of the decade if we're being real. But behind the catchy tunes and the MTV glory, this band has had some seriously wild drama. Scandals, lawsuits, and explosive feuds that would make any tabloid jealous. This is Third Eye Blind, a band with a history rockier than their guitar riffs. Third Eye Blind was born in 1993 in San Francisco, California. Frontman Stephen Jenkins was the mastermind behind the whole thing. But before he was rocking the world with Semi-Charmed Life, he was in a short-lived interracial rap duo called Puck and Natty. But the whole thing fell apart because Jenkins couldn't agree with Capitol Records on the direction, and the duo was over. But this is where Jenkins gets his first taste of the industry connections, baby. And those connections would later fuel Third Eye Blind. Oh, and fun fact, it was in Puck and Natty where Jenkins wrote the first version of what would become Semi-Charmed Life. After the rap duo imploded, Jenkins went all in on starting a rock band. He gathered some folks, but plot twist, half of them dropped out because of drug issues or just bailed to join other bands. But hey, persistence paid off. By 1995, Jenkins had recruited guitarist Kevin Cadogan and bassist Arian Salazar. They were about to form the core of what would become the Third Eye Blind we know and love.
And when I was trying to put this band together, I was looking for people who wanted to sound like themselves and sort of find their own sound and find their own thing.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, folks. The band almost broke up in 1995 after they bombed a Battle of the Bands gig. Imagine showing up for your big break, only to have the drummer quit last minute, Jenkins getting sick, and Cadogan's amp blowing out. But instead of throwing in the towel, they pulled themselves together, recruited a new drummer, Brad Hargreaves, and kept grinding. And let me tell you, that was the start of their explosive rise. By 1996, after a lot of demos, fights, and struggles, Third Eye Blind finally got a real break. They landed a major label deal with Elektra Records, and guess what? Jenkins was feeling himself so much, he secretly set up Third Eye Blind Inc., with him as the sole owner.
Hi, this is Stephen Jenkins from Third Eye Blind, and we're trapped in the hang. Come, save me, save me.
Talk about playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Anyway, the band's first big hit was Semi-Charmed Life. And with that, they were off. Their self-titled debut album, Third Eye Blind, dropped in 1997 and completely changed the game. It didn't hit #1, but it stayed on the charts for over a year, selling almost 1 million copies by the end of that year. But things behind the scenes were already starting to get messy. Jenkins and Cadogan weren't seeing eye to eye, and Cadogan quickly started feeling like he wasn't being treated as an equal partner. And in the middle of all of this came Blue, their second album in 1999. On that album was Slow Motion, which was supposed to be a full vocal track on Blue. But after Columbine, Elektra feared the lyrics about a student shooting a teacher's son were too controversial. The album dropped with an instrumental version, and an EP with the full vocals was promised but never released. Fans didn't get the full version until 2006 on A Collection. Here's what Stefan had to say about it.
It really just shows how little room there is for irony in the United States of America. The song's ironic.
By now, things had really started to hit the fan. Jenkins and Cadogan had serious tension during the recording sessions. They couldn't agree on anything, from which songs to keep on the album to the direction of the band. And when Jenkins secretly took control of all the band's legal and financial matters, well, Cadogan wasn't having it. He was out, leaving Jenkins and the rest of the band to deal with the fallout. Jenkins fired him in January 2000, and that led to the first of many legal battles. We'll get into that later, but for now, the band moved on, but they couldn't escape the backlash. Blue didn't do as well as their debut, even though it still went platinum. Never Let You Go was the single that kept them on the radar, but the damage from all the internal conflicts was already done. Tony, Freddie, and Nelly stepped in to replace Cadogan, and the band went on a full-scale tour to support Blue, but the vibe was off. Now the next phase, Out of the Vein, released in 2003, was another tough one. Jenkins went through a major slump, battling depression and writer's block, which delayed the album. When it dropped, it didn't live up to the expectations. It sold poorly, and the band was dropped from their label, Elektra. And if you thought that was the end of the drama, oh honey, you're in for a treat. In 2005, the band was still reeling from their previous issues. Jenkins worked on producing for other artists like Vanessa Carlton, and the band still couldn't get their act together. In 2007, their fourth album, Ursa Major, was finally announced. After all the delays and fights, Ursa Major dropped in 2009. It had some decent tracks, but again, it didn't do as well as their first album. Non-Dairy Creamer and Bonfire didn't chart, and Freddie Anelli got fired yet again, replaced by Chris Reed. More lineup changes? You bet. Now, 2015 rolls around and Dopamine finally drops after a long wait. By now, it was clear the band was on a different path and Jenkins wasn't afraid to take risks. They weren't the rock gods they used to be, but they still had their loyal fans. Dopamine didn't exactly blow up, but it made a decent impact. They went on tour, and the fans ate it up. By 2016, the band was back with a new EP, We Are Drugs, which was full of political jams and rebellious energy. The band is a revolving door of bandmates at this point. Members come and go, but they keep pushing out new music. Fast forward to 2019, Screamer was released with a fresh lineup. But even with the new blood, the old Third Eye Blind wasn't quite the same. They had a North American tour, a new EP in 2021, and a slew of singles. But honestly, the band's glory days were a long time ago. Still, Jenkins and the crew keep going, releasing music, touring, and pushing through the drama. Can't keep a good band down, right? And in 2025, well, the band's still here, releasing new songs like a Lullaby and performing live. One thing is for sure, the band had been a revolving door for members and has had about 15 members over the years. But the only ones who stuck around? Stephen Jenkins, the drama king, and Brad Hargreaves, the drummer who just won't quit. The rest. Well, Kevin Cadogan, lead guitar, got the boot in 2000 after some serious tension with Jenkins, and Arian Salazar bowed out in 2006. Tony Freddie Anelli guitar was in and out. Chris Reed, lead guitarist, joined in 2010, and Alex Kopp played keyboards for a while too. But let's not forget the early days. Jason Slater was on bass, Adrian Burley on drums, and even Abe Millett for bass. And with that many members, one thing comes for granted. First up, Kevin Cadogan. In 2000, when Kevin got fired, he went straight for the jugular and sued the band for wrongful termination and went on to claim that Jenkins had pulled some sneaky moves behind the scenes. Kevin says Jenkins made Third Eye Blind Inc., his one-man show, cutting him out of profits, stripping him of any band ownership, and even using his name and face without permission. They tried to fight it out in court from 2000 to 2002, but guess what? They finally settled. The settlement terms were kept hush-hush, but that wasn't the last we'd hear of the legal mess. Oh no, after Cadogan's lawsuit, the band needed to protect themselves legally, so they had insurance, right? Wrong. Their insurer, Near North Entertainment Insurance Services, decided to play hardball. They refused to cover the lawsuit costs. So this time, the band sued the insurance company for failing to defend them. The court said the insurance company had to step up, but then dismissed some other claims. After all the back and forth, this thing dragged on until 2005. Then came Anthony Freddie Anelli. He sued the band for over $8 million, accusing Jenkins of breach of contract, withholding writing credits, and all sorts of money mishaps. And you know what? Jenkins wasn't having it either. He had the receipts, and a lot of Freddie Anelli's claims didn't hold up. But even with all the legal mumbo-jumbo, Freddie Anelli wasn't totally shut out. The court did agree that he was owed some real money for lost wages from touring because... And guess what? Freddie Anelli walked away with a cool $448,000. Fast forward to 2018, and Kevin Cadogan is back at it. He wants his royalties for the 20th anniversary reissue of their first album. He's mad the band's been keeping his money all these years, even after he's been gone since the 2000s. The lawsuit was filed, but nothing's been resolved publicly yet. They've been making headlines for other reasons too. We're talking scandals and feuds, and yes, this is all before we even get to the tragic passing of bassist Jason Slater in 2020. He died from liver failure, leaving fans heartbroken, but his passing wasn't the only story Third Eye Blind had to offer. Now, if you think rock bands don't have beef, let me introduce you to Smash Mouth. Apparently, lead singer Steve Harwell hated Stephen Jenkins like hated.
With, like your Third Eye Blinds of the world. I wouldn't go near Stephen Jenkins and that band. Guy's a douchebag.
It all goes back to a lawsuit that guitarist Kevin Cadogan filed against Jenkins. The messiest part? Cadogan says Jenkins tried to make him pay for his hotel bill while he was away on tour. But, of course, it didn't end there. Smash Mouth's Harwell, who was tight with Cadogan, sided with him and basically roasted Jenkins in the press. He even said he's not a good person. The beef between Jenkins and Harwell went all the way to a performance at Napa Valley's Bottle Rock Festival in 2014, where Harwell took shots at Jenkins in front of a crowd. And if you think that's where the bad blood stopped, think again. You know Jimmy Eat World's Zach Lind. The drummer took to Twitter in 2019 and straight up called Jenkins creepy. Not just creepy, but a dude who redrafted his band's contracts for his own benefit without telling his bandmates. Lind didn't hold back, even saying he felt bad for anyone defending Jenkins. But Lind and Jenkins ended up touring together in 2019 for the Summer Gods Tour, a joint tour across the US. The complexity of rock and roll relationships, am I right? And despite all of it, Jenkins may have seen his fair share of controversies and band drama. But in 2025, he's still out here making waves. With a net worth of $9 million, Jenkins and his band are actively engaged in live performances and new music releases. This year, they headlined the PGA show Winter Jam in January and delivered a tiny desk concert for NPR in March, debuting their new track, Like a Lullaby. They're set to headline the Dearborn Homecoming Festival in August alongside the War and Treaty and Tiger's Jaw, proving they're far from a nostalgia act.